Listen, good morning and welcome to King's Newsroom for the 5 minutes of news from Liberia and the rest of our one word. Today's Friday, January 9, 2026. My name is Cornelius Johnson presenting story coming up this morning. Liberia National Police arrest Peter Jala, a senior official of the National Security Agency for his alleged involvement into a gang sodomy of a 15-year-old boy. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency dismisses two officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect. LD officer in charge, Pazziaro Biako, reaffirms commitment to professionalism. Environmental Protection Agency calls for collective action to safeguard Liberia's environmental space amid alarming climate change impacts across the country. Away from home, U.S. has suspended all assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroy our UN War Food Program warehouse and seize donor-funded food aid. The news bulletin, voices of the newsmakers, plus our foreign developments are all packaged in this edition of the program. We take a very short break to be right back. Thanks for being there. Up next is the bulletin of news with Kwame Brown.
Former Minister of National Defense, Rani Samukai, has disagreed with the argument of the country recently being divided by political criticism. Appearing on the Truth Breakfast show on Thursday, the former minister, the former defense minister and winner of the local county 2020 senatorial election, said the current political debate as a sign of healthy democratic. Samukai argued that diverse opinion doesn't mean the country is divided, beginning that debate reflects the different shapes of society that can be combined into a single range of development. The former defense minister put up maintained that criticism is both expected and hefty, emphasizing the importance of technocrats, sociologists, economists, and other specialists in shaping policy decisions. He noted that democracies depend on disagreement and criticism from opposition leaders, which, according to him, can sharpen policy outcomes of the country. Samukai also quoted that the criticism on policy implementation from critics toward the president suggests that shortcoming is from the appointed officials rather than the head of state. The Environmental Protection Agency says climate change is no longer a distant threat to Liberia, but a present and rapidly intensifying crisis already reshaping livelihoods, infrastructure, and national developments. Addressing the press conference Thursday at the EPA headquarters office in Monrovia, EPA Executive Director Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawulo said the erratic rainfall of devastating floods, recent events, particularly throughout 2025 and into early 2026, have highlighted the urgent need for coordinated action by government, communities, and international partners. According to the EPA Executive Director, the impacts adding with scientific projections linking raising global temperatures to the increased atmospheric moisture, stronger storms, and more frequent heavy rainfall events across the country. He added that while the government has initiated measures to address climate risks, including strengthening environmental regulations, protecting forests and wetlands, and promoting climate resilient infrastructure, The skills of the challenge demands more robust action. Dr. Yapawolo, however, noted that these responsibilities do not rest with government alone, but rather communities, religious institutions, civil society organizations, and the private sector all have critical roles to play in protecting forests, reducing pollution, supporting sustainable agriculture. We call every Liberian to act decisively by protecting the forest, adding that climate change is already affecting daily lives, including threatening to public health, food security, and the future of upcoming generations. The EPA executive director maintained that failure to act decisively will deepen inequality and economic vulnerability, especially with strong governance, international cooperation, urgent and collective. Protecting the environment is essential to safeguarding livelihoods, supporting farmers, and securing a sustainable future for Liberia tomorrow. The Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency has dismissed two of its officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect in the agency's custody. The dismissal follows incidents in which Officers Solomon Bondo and Faith Willie were found to have physically assaulted a suspect, including slapping the individuals while under detention. Actions confirmed to the officer in charge of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, ACP, that Garrett Biago, noted that evidence found against the two officers were in violation of Section 45.8 of the LDEA Code of Conduct, which classifies such behaviors as serious professional misconduct. According to the Professional Standards Division, the investigation held strictly to the administrative due process. Both officers were afforded the opportunity to respond to the allegations through written submissions, and the injury evaluated the totality of evidence gathered during the review process. It acknowledged public concerns surrounding the incident and emphasized that the disciplinary action forms part of the code of record and rebranding agenda aimed at restoring confidence in the agency's operations. ACP Biago added under watch unprofessional behavior will not be tolerated under any circumstances which undermines human rights, the rule of law, or the integrity of the institution. The LDEA the LDEA reiterated its obligation under the constitutions of the Republic of Liberia to uphold human rights, particularly for individuals in custody, and to ensure that all enforcement actions are conducted lawfully and professionally. He also issued a warning all professionals that administrative action would be taken against any officer whose conduct compromises the credibility, integrity, or reform efforts of the LDEA. A senior official of the National Security Agency has allegedly been accused and arrested for his involvement into gang sodomy of a 15-year-old boy. According to reports, Peter Jala, a senior official with the NSA, was arrested and is currently in police custody following the allegation that he and two compliance engaged in the sexual assault of the teenage boy in Monrovia. Leaked audio evidence has surfaced on the alleged claims surrounding the incident. The victim is a soccer player. He is he is currently receiving medical care after the alleged attack left him in critical condition. The report noted that family members, community witnesses, and insiders from the security setup indicate that Jala escorted the boys on basis of promising to purchase him a pair of football boots. The gesture reportedly allowed him to gain the teenager's confidence over the week leading up to the tragic event. The incident, which allegedly took place last week when the boy visited Jala to collect the promised aid. Witnesses described the 15-year-old boy's condition as helpless as he lay barely conscious and struggling for breath. While laying helpless, good Samaritans who discovered the boy acted swiftly, providing immediate assistance and helping to stabilize him as the boy began to regain some strength and managed to remember his mother's phone number, prompting residents to contact her promptly. While under care, the boy recounted his harrowing experience to healthcare staff and relatives, directly implicating Jala and two others in his as his attackers. Following these disclosures, his family complained to the Liberian National Police to report the crime, which initiated an official investigation. Sources close to the family revealed that Jala was summoned for questioning at the LNP headquarters on Tuesday, after which he he was interrogated and detained by the Liberian National Police at the central headquarters. The preliminary medical assessment has indicated evidence of sexual assault, confirming that the minor had been tampered with through a complete medical report. A former employee of Monster Garage, Buakai Ama, has accused the company's management of engaging in what he described as poor labor practices, including unsafe working conditions and the unfair termination of his employment. Speaking with reporters on Thursday, Ama alleged that Monster Garage routinely failed to provide basic safety and employment protection for its workers. Among the concerns he raised were the absence of safety boots for employees, the lack of official identification cards, and what he described as persistent mistreatment of workers while on duty. Aman accused management of abandoning him after he sustained a severe injury while performing his duties. According to him, he broke his legs on the job but was left without medical or financial support from his employer. He said the lack of assistance has resulted in prolonged suffering and has left one of his legs permanently crippled due to his inability to afford proper medical care. Amma further alleged that instead of receiving support during his recovery, his employment was terminated, an action he described as unjust and in violation of basic labor standards. Efforts to obtain a response from Monster Garage management regarding the allegations were unsuccessful. Labor advocates note that Liberian labor laws require employers to ensure safe working environments and to provide reasonable support to workers injured in the course of their employment. The allegations have raised renewed concerns about workplace safety and workers' rights within the informal and private sector, while enforcement of labor regulations is often weak. The managing director of the National Transit Authority, Emmett Ford, has described the institution under the CDC-led government as almost completely destroyed. According to him, the Blatter-led administration inherited only $113,000 Liberian dollars and US $41 in the NTA's account, with no substantial information regarding other accounts created under the authority. Ford explained that the institution was in a complete state of collapse and would have been totally destroyed had the CDC remained in power. As part of efforts to reburn the institution, he stated that the NTA has introduced strategic salary harmonization, a move that increased staff strength and adjusted salaries in line with qualification and ranks, adding that the current minimum salary at the NTA is 200 United States dollars. The institution, he said, has also embarked on strengthening the capacity of its employees and is currently sponsoring some staff to attend the Monrovia Vocational Training Center, a step he noted would enhance efficiency and productivity. For further that the NTA is fast-tracking the completion of its headquarters to ensure a more secure and conducive working environment. It also disclosed that the authority is working on modalities to restore functional terminals nationwide, procure new vehicles, and resume active services across the country. Managing Director Ford made the disclosure Thursday during the Ministry of Information's regular press briefing in Monrovia. Sino County Electoral District Number 2 Representative Samson Weir has called on the authority of the armed forces of Liberia to immediately investigate an alleged shooting incident and reported acts of intimidation by deployed AFL personnel at the Sapo National Park, Jedigo, Sando County. Speaking to journalists on Wednesday at the Capitol building, Representative Weir disclosed that he received reports of a serious security incident in which AFL personnel allegedly occupied parts of the town and discharged live ammunition, uh, causing widespread panic amongst residents and forcing many to flee into nearby villages for safety. According to the lawmaker, the AFL deployment to the area was originally intended to remove illegal miners from protected forest zones and to cool illegal mining activities within and around Sapo National Park. However, Representative, however, Representative Weir alleged that subsequent reports indicated that some AFL personnel abandoned their assigned posts and remained within civilian communities, contrary to the scope of their deployment. The further stated that formal complaints were submitted to senior AFL authorities regarding the incident's situation, but alleged that the officers involved continue to act outside their mandate at Sapo National Park. The lawmaker, however, claimed that some of the deployed AFL personnel entered the community under the influence of alcohol and attempted to interfere with traditional practices. According to him, when traditional authorities instructed residents to remain indoors in observance of customary protocols, the AFL personnel allegedly resisted the directive and later opened fire, reportedly discharging dozens of rounds across the town.
Indeed, if you just join us, a reminder you are in tune to King's Newsroom for the 5 minutes of news from Liberia and the rest of our one word. Today's Friday, January 9, 2026. My name is Cornelius Johnson, presenting one of our top stories this morning. Liberia National Police arrests Peter Jalai, a senior official of the National Security Agency, for his alleged involvement into gang sodomy of a 15-year-old boy. Let's now bring you voices of of the newsmakers. Today's development now, former Minister of National Defense Brani Samuka has disagreed with the argument of the country currently be divided by political criticism appearing on the Truth Breakfast Show Thursday. The former defense minister and winner of the Olofa County 2020 senatorial election said the current political debate is a sign of healthy democracy. Samukai argued that diverse opinion doesn't mean the country is divided, maintaining that debate reflects the different shades of society that can be combined into a single range of development. The former defense minister further maintained that criticism is both expected and healthy, emphasizing the importance of technocrats, psychologists, economists, and other specialists in shaping policy decisions. Here now is former defense minister Brian Samuka.
I think diverse opinion doesn't necessarily mean the country. As a matter of fact, it provides a better focus on a different shade that we can combine looking through the single spectrum that we call development. Different shades to it. So I think the debate is healthy. Every legislature has its own ethics. Every ethos, that's what they have. Different way of different attitude. You see legislature in Thailand fighting. You see legislature in Singapore fighting to expand the idea. In Korea, here we are debating the issue. So there's a diversity of opinion. We show the diversity of our culture and our environment. So I think what I can say is that the president expounded his policy. He gave us the direction that he's leading and he wanted to follow. It is incumbent upon us appointed to those positions to deliver for the president based on the strategy that has been approved, the resources that are available that we can account for, and the results that we have said we're going to achieve. That's when the issue comes out. How long it took us to achieve. For example, the criticism of certain kind of implementation doesn't mean you're criticizing the president. It simply means that those given the task to implement certain things are probably not doing it in the context of which it is expected. Diverse opinion sometimes is very healthy for democracy, so that you alone don't have all of the ideas. That's why you have sociologists, you have economists, you have mathematicians, and different kind of technocrats in whose diverse opinion you can take in the final decision that you make.
The Environmental Protection Agency says climate change is no longer a distant threat to Liberia, but a present and rapidly intensifying crisis, already reshaping livelihoods, infrastructure, and national development. Addressing a press conference Thursday at the EPA headquarters in Monrovia, EPA Executive Director Dr. Emmanuel Yapawulo said the erratic rainfall to devastating floods, recent events, particularly throughout 2025 and into early 2026, have highlighted the urgent need for coordinated action by government, communities, and international partners. According to the EPA Executive Director, the impacts align with scientific projections linking rising global temperatures to increase atmospheric moisture, stronger storms, and more frequent heavy rainfall events across the country. He added that while the government has initiated measures to address climate risks, including strengthening environmental regulations, protecting forests and wetlands, and promoting climate resilience infrastructure, the scale of the challenge demands more robust action. Here now is Dr. Emmanuel Yakwaulo.
I address you today on an issue that touches every Liberian. Our rainfall pattern, our farm, our road, our homes. For generations, address seasons follow a clear and dependable rhythm. The season normally range from April to May, October, and the dry season from May, October to May, April. Farmers rely on this pattern to know when to plant and harvest. And engineers rely on it to plan construction and development works. However, in recent years, especially in 2025 and now early 2026, this pattern has changed. Instead of experiencing a clear dry season, Liberia has been recording persistent and unusual rainfall, often accompanied by strong winds and flooding. Floods and storms displaced thousands of people, destroyed homes and washed away properties, and made living conditions extremely difficult in Monrovia and its surrounding communities in other parts of Liberia. Even now, but what is causing this problem? Many Liberians are constantly asking why our weather and climate are changing and why these events are becoming even more dangerous. The simple and honest answer is climate change. Climate change is not a distant problem or a future threat. It is happening now, and Liberia is clearly experiencing its effects. For Liberia, this means heavier rainfall outside of traditional season, stronger storms, and more frequent flooding. Liberia has over 560 kilometers of coastline, and nearly 60% of our population lives along or near the coast. If this trend continues, thousands of Liberians could lose their homes and vital infrastructure such as roads, hospitals, coastlines will increasingly in danger. The second major threat is the changing pattern and intensity of rainfall. Rain no longer comes when it is expected, and when it does, it often comes in large and destructive amounts. This directly threatens agriculture, which depends almost entirely on natural rainfall.
Dr. Yapaulo, however, noted that this responsibility does not rest with the government alone, but where wider communities, religious institutions, civil society organizations, and the private sector all have critical roles to play in protecting forests, reducing population, supporting sustainable agriculture. He called on every Liberian to act decisively by protecting the forest, adding that climate change is already affecting daily life, including threatening of public health, food security, and the future of coming generations.
Why climate change is driven by global factors, global environmental practices are making its impact worse. Heavy reliance on charcoal production and firewood, the increasing number of old and fuel inefficient vehicles, industrial emissions, deforestation, destruction of wetland, poor waste management, and pollution of rivers and streams by mining activities or weakening our natural defenses against flooding and extreme weather. These changes are already affecting national development. More construction projects are delayed. Maintenance costs are increasing. Development plans based on old climate assumptions are no longer effective. Our farmers are among the highest rates. Unpredictable rainfall causes seeds to rot in waterlogged soil, crops to fail, and harvest to decline. This affects rice, cassava, vegetables, and tree crops, leading to higher food prices and greater food insecurity. Government intervention. The government of Liberia is actively responding to these challenges. Liberia continues to advocate strongly at the global level for climate justice, adaptation, finance, and loss and damage support for vulnerable countries. The government is also advancing coastal defense projects to protect communities, roads, hospitals, and economic access for sea level rise and storm surges. At the same time, the Environmental Protection Agency is strengthening environmental governance by improving monitoring of mining activities, enforcing environmental laws, protecting forests and wetlands, regulating pollution, polluting industries, and promoting climate smart agriculture, all to action to all Liberians and residents of Liberia. However, government action is not enough alone. Every Liberian and everyone who resides in Liberia has a role to play. I urge all citizens and residents of Liberia to protect forests and wetlands, stop unnecessary deforestation, keep our communities clean, avoid blocking drainages and drainage systems, reduce pollution.
He's the executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Emmanuel Yapawulo. They're speaking yesterday. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has dismissed two of its officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect in the agency's custody. The dismissal follows incidents in which officers Solomon Gondo and Fitz Willie were found to have physically assaulted a suspect, including slapping the individual while on detention. Their actions confirmed through the officer in charge of the LDA ACP Fazjaro Biako noted that evidence found against the two officers are in violations of Section 45.8 of the LDA Code of Conduct, which classifies such behaviors as serious professional misconduct. He acknowledged public concern surrounding the incident and emphasized that the disciplinary actions formed part of a broader recall and rebranding agenda aimed at restoring confidence in the agency's operations. Now is ACP as Jaron Biako.
I address you today on an issue that touches every Nigerian. Our reform the unified drive of reform and accountability that the administration of the LDA maintains a board of internal inquiry, professional standards to conduct a comprehensive administrative investigation into allegations of assault involving Officer Solomon Bongo and Faith Willie. The incident on review reported occurred on January 6, 2026, and involved female suspect who was in the custody of the agency. Ensure adherence to established administrative procedures and due process requirements. The professional standard ensured that both officers were full of full fairness throughout the investigation. This process included the voluntary submission of written statements, responsive to structural personnel, a core examination conducted during the inquiry. During the course of the investigation, Officer Solomon Bongo and Faith Willie admitted to slapping the suspect. Both officers fully acknowledged their actions constituted a violation of the LDA Code of Conduct. They expressed remorse and tender apologies are reflected in the complaint deposition, section 5.9, page 37, under section 45.8 of the LDA Code of Conduct. Such actions are classified as serious unprofessional conduct. Under the LDA Administrative Due Process Framework, investigative findings are categorized as unfounded, exonerated, not sustained, or unsustained, based on the officer's admissions and the totality of the evidence gathered. The Board of Internal Inquiry and Professional Standard determined that the allegation against both officers is sustained in accordance with Section 45.8 of the LDA Code of Conduct on serious unprofessional conduct. In view of the findings, the Board of Internal Inquiry and Professional Standards are recommended the following: that the findings of sustained be formally applied in this matter pursuant to the relevant provision of the LDA Code of Conduct. That Officer Solomon Bongo and Faith Willie be terminated from the Drug Enforcement Agency for serious professional misconduct. That the agency reaffirm its uncompromising position that there is no room for unprofessional behavior within the LDA, that no one is above the law, and that accountability will be imposed without exception. That in pursuit of its ongoing reform and rebranding efforts, the LDA remains firm in enforcing discipline, ethical conduct, and absolute professionalism across the institution. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency assure the public that the rights, safety, and dignity of all citizens, particularly those in the custody of the agency, remain paramount.
He's the officer in charge of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, ACP Fazjaro Biako, there speaking. To this development now, the managing director of the National Transit Authority, Edmond Four, has described the institution under the CDC-led government as utmost completely destroyed. According to him, the Boaka-led administration inherited only 113,000 Liberian dollars and 41 United States dollars in the NTA's accounts, with no substantial information regarding other accounts created under the authority. For explain that the institution was in a complete state of collapse and would have been totally destroyed had the CDC remained in power. As part of efforts to rebrand the institution, he stated that the NTA has introduced strategic salary harmonization, a move that increased staff strength and adjusted salaries in line with qualifications and ranks, adding that the current minimum salary at the NTA is 200 United States dollars. Here now is Edmond Four.
We do want the National Transit Authority to do an inventory of how we get the institution and to authenticate what we recorded. We wrote the general audit commission to conduct an entry audit so that at the end of our tenure, when we are leaving, we have independent verifier to state what we actually invested. In terms of employee welfare, when we took over, we met the institution very good. In fact, in one of our discussions, I said the total amount in dollars and cents that we get at the entity was 130,000 Liberian dollars. And 41 US dollars. In fact, a draft copy of the GDC report didn't put me a little bit wrong because there were accounts that were open that we did not receive information about, and we got those information as a result of the audit, and all those accounts are in negative, which is a liability to the institution. So if I take that into consideration, it means we have to be very sensitive deep in negative. However, there are some people that tend to challenge what we said, and I told them I will need ask the bank to publish it directly from the bank, and you will see exactly what we are talking about. In terms of infrastructure, said it my last time here that we took over the entity with our administrative building. The administrative building was burned down to the ground, and so in 2025, we began the construction of a new administrative building. As we speak, they should be casting the first floor of that building this morning. We are now trying to renovate our terminals. We four terminals were constructed in 2014. In fact, the fourth one was not completed up to 2017. Three of them was fully completed, furnished well in the Bangladesh County, Bowen, Sacramento County, and you cannot get out of competition. What they did, those terminals were massive failures in the past 6 years.
He's the managing director of the National Transit Authority at Montfort. They're describing the institution under the Weah government as almost completely destroyed. He spoke yesterday at Mika press briefing in Monrovia. A former employee of Monster Garage, Waka Aman, has accused the company's management of engaging in what he described as poor labor practices, including unsafe working conditions and the unfair termination of his employment. Speaking of reporters Thursday, Ahmad Jala alleged that Monster Garage routinely failed to provide basic safety and employment protections for its workers. Among the concerns he raised were the absence of safety boots for employees, the lack of official identification cards, and what he described as persistent mistreatment of workers while on duty. Ama accused management of abandoning him while he sustained a severe injury while performing his duties. Here now is Waka Aman.
I started work as model around in March 2020. I worked there for 2 years, 3 months. On the 11th of June 2022, I went to work. I was a veterinary. I worked there on the 11th of June, which was on Tuesday. I went to work. But this I worked there from 8 to 6. Basically, we don't have any handicap, don't have no dressing room, even safety gear. We don't have it. So I went in the bathroom to use the bathroom. While coming back on motorbike, I had to pay my football program. You can see it. While I continue, I was not able to leave there or down on the company for salary. I spent 4 more hours with the they ask me salary. They are even helping me for me to get money to really treat them up. Yes, one mistake or 9 was for the 2 million or 2 to go back with the having the thing. I started work on the 1st of October 2024. In June 2025, we had a misunderstanding between us and the boy. There is no battery charge on it. So he told me to charge the battery, to be charging the battery on the car. While charging the battery, mistakenly, my dad was another doing another way. He finished on the car. He came out every yelling to me, what you have to finish on the car, you know, and I said, oh, my dad was never knew. So he told me to started. You have to buy few. I told him I don't have money for the same. My car city was out to me, I will fire it. I went home. My electronic for me. So if they any my car city was out, I said, but I told you I don't have money. He said, okay, tomorrow you can't take your salary. Then the next morning when I went there, he said, go in the office. I went in the office and all this signing like usually 27 now from 2025. I went in the office and told the accountant to give me my 1 month salary, which is 150. I already need to do $50 salary account. So he gave me $100. And I worked there with play half of it. The same day I'm there working my kids.
Sino County Electoral District Number 2 Representative Samson Wea has called on the authority of the armed forces of Liberia to immediately investigate an alleged shooting incident and reported acts of intimidation by deployed AFL personnel at the Sapo National Park, Jedibo, Sino County. Speaking to journalists, recently at the Capitol building, Representative Wea disclosed that he received reports of a serious security incident in which EFL personnel allegedly occupied parts of the town and discharged live ammunition, causing widespread panic among residents and forcing many to flee into nearby bushes for safety. According to the lawmaker, AFL deployment to the area was originally intended to remove illegal miners from protected forest zones and to curb illegal mining activities within and around Sapo National Park. Is Representative Wea.
National government took a decision to have AFL personnel deployed in the park. If you look at our park cover a very vast land, and then the very circumference of that park form a parameter that is referred to as the buffer. So when they were deployed, they were asked to go with the mandate of ensuring that illicit miners are put out of the park and ensure that pushers, many people who were in the park going after animals, were not invading the park. And that was the mandate, that was the mission. They have deserted their post and no more after miners. And you have them lingering all around the communities. Something that's also sad for the country. Oh man. But that's the most recent episode during the festive season. Our tradition people gather in a town on Yamleken, and the exercise started around Saturday to Sunday, and then Monday evening, which was the 25th, by 7 p.m. The guys deserted their posts, received information that they entered those towns in alcohol. They have gone in there to go after the people wives, to look for women in those communities, and the tradition was already in charge of the town. When they hit the ground, the traditional people decided finding a place for them to be so that they could not interfere with those ongoing traditional practices that were already in motion. And to our greater surprise, as part of the traditional action that requested that all women and no member remain indoor, and only constant that the AFL already placed in the area where they should just be. When that pronouncement and announcement was made by the traditional messenger, the AFL resisted that girls and women shouldn't go indoor. The AFL started going after our traditional people, and they loosened up into huge firing.
He's the representative of Sino County District Number 2, Samson Wea. They're speaking. Across the border now, the U.S. has suspended oil assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroy a UN War Food Program warehouse and seize donor-funded food aid. The Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for waste, theft, and diversion of life-saving assistance, said a U.S. State Department statement on X. The message posted on the account of Honored Secretary for Foreign Assistance said reports have been received about officials illegally seizing 76 tons of food intended for vulnerable Somalis. Somalia has denied the allegations, saying that the expansion work on a way in the Mogadishu port, where the warehouse is located, had not affected NNA storage. It stressed that all humanitarian aid in question was still under the custody and control of the World Food Program, including assistance provided by the United States. The warehouse was partially demolished during the weekend without the knowledge of the WFP, but there was no looting involved. To end this news, here once again our top stories. Liberia National Police arrest Peter Jala, a senior official of the National Security Agency, for his alleged involvement into gang sodomy of a 15-year-old boy. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency dismisses two officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect, LDO officer in charge, Faziaro Biako, reference commitment to professionalism. Environmental Protection Agency calls for collective action to safeguard Liberia's environmental space amid alarming climate change impact across the country. Away from home, U.S. has suspended oil assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroy a UN World Food Program warehouse and seized donor funded aid. Many thanks to all of our contributors, editors, and reporters who helped in making this edition of King's Newsroom a success. For more news and information, do join us at 1 p.m. this afternoon, or better still, at 6 p.m. this evening for a fresh edition of the program. Thanks to Kwame Brown, who brought us our news bulletin on behalf of the entire team. My name is Cornelius Johnson. I presented. Thanks for listening and watching. Good morning.